What's going on, everybody? It is Mr. LaShaunt here with another Street Fighter V video. But this video is going to be a little bit different. It isn't going to be about the gameplay. I'm actually recording this because I wanted to put my thoughts about Street Fighter V out there. And talk about basically the transition that we've had from when this game first started in 2016 to now in 2019, as the title so says. So, very recently, we just got done with Capcom Cup. And shout outs to IDOM winning the whole shebang and bringing the bag home for the people of New York. And if my bae is watching, I know you're definitely probably going to be rubbing it in my face. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? We definitely going to give a shout outs to IDOM. IDOM did his thing. I mean, this guy coming from loser's bracket, the way that he did, so strong, so confidently. I mean, yo, like, there's no way I can hate. There's no way I can hate. I just got to congratulate. You know what I'm saying? I definitely wanted Punk to win, being a Philly boy, but IDOM, I mean, after that second match, IDOM just took control and Punk just couldn't do anything with him. He was just playing too consistent, too smooth. And, it's basically a win-win for me because I'm, also a Laura player and I do like Laura. But congratulations to IDOM. And, I had the pleasure of watching Capcom Cup with my girlfriend and my best friend, two people who are gamers and who have a deep love for Street Fighter. I remember sitting there and I remember just watching it and feeling the most excitement that I've ever felt for a Street Fighter tournament. And I remember looking at these matches and being like, yo, this stuff is clean. Like, yo, this joint is ridiculously fun. Like, it's amazing. Not just because of, there were upsets or whatever else, but also because, things seemed a lot more consistent from characters, from players. It just reminded me of the excitement that I used to get from watching Street Fighter 4 fights and, Arcade Edition and Ultra Street Fighter 4 and all that good stuff. And even for my buddy who is a big Street Fighter fan, he hates Street Fighter 5. He hates it with a passion. But even he was sitting there and he was having a great time watching these matches. He was rooting for IDOM and everything. And, because he can't stand Punk, understandably, because Punk can be a little weird sometimes. But, he was rooting for IDOM and everything, and we was just sitting there and we was so hyped watching it. And then we saw the Seth reveal, and oh my god, it was amazing seeing this character, the options that he had. It was so dope. And it was a huge, huge change from what Street Fighter V used to be and how I used to look at the tournaments and the matches and things that would go on. And so, I was sitting there thinking to myself, man, how did we get here? So let's start with that. So let's start at the very beginning when this game came out in 2016. And when this game first came out, as a gaming product, this was horrible. I mean, there was the 8 frames of input lag, which would basically, when you pressed a button, your character would do it like 2 seconds later. The online wasn't even there, and then even when it was there, it was trash. It would say that players are a 5 bar, but they would be playing like there's a 3. Like, everybody was teleporting. Anytime I play somebody with a bad connection, they start teleporting. And like everybody basically becomes M. Bison. Like everybody's using Psycho Power and just teleporting all over the darn place. You know what I'm saying? This game did not have its story mode. It didn't have an arcade mode. It was just, it was a horrible, horrible product. And in my humble opinion, I've never been somebody... I mean, from the start, I never thought that Street Fighter needed a story mode. I can date back to when I was a little kid, and I would play Street Fighter. I would play Street Fighter in my barbershop. Street Fighter Alpha 3, and it would give me a little synopsis of Cody, who is my favorite character. And it would tell me about how Cody was, this hero who was, wrongfully imprisoned, and how he broke out of jail just to go and have some fun. And that was the coolest thing to me. And then I would play, and then I would have this special match where Birdie would talk about how it's funny how he used to beat up bad guys, and now Cody is the bad guy. And then you would go on to fight Guy, who talked about how, he knows you're still good in Cody's heart and everything else. You would fight Bison. And then after that, it would basically tell you about how, Cody saved the day and all this cool stuff. I've always thought that Street Fighter V was really good at that. Was really good at showing you the story instead of telling you about it. It would give you a little nice snippet of parts of the story that you could be able to fill in for yourself while you're fighting, because that's what Street Fighter is really about. It's really about the fighting. It's really about, all these different types of people coming together to show their talent and all that good stuff. And so I never really thought that Street Fighter, ever needed a story mode. I think that Capcom saw it work with Mortal Kombat, and, they were just like, oh, we can do that. And it didn't work out well for them, I don't think. I also think that Street Fighter V needed another year. I definitely think this game would have been a lot better if it just had another year. And it's perfectly fine to delay a game if you, give the fans, the reason why, and do it out of love for the product. But they didn't do that, and I honestly think that this game suffered for it. And in the beginning, Season 1, Ryu and Chun-Li were top tier. And, I always thought that was a cool thing. I thought that it should be like that because of the fact that, these are like some of the main characters and everything. So I always thought that was cool. Then you had Season 2, which was Laura, Balrog, and Urien. And of course, I enjoyed that, being a Laura player. I definitely had a fun time with that. Doing medium kick 3 times in a row. Oh, man. It was great. But of course, the pros and other people were, saying about how that's really, really annoying. And, it basically, devolved, and Street Fighter V basically kind of devolved into, as quoted by Ryan Gutierrez, aka Gutex, that Street Fighter V is this generation Street Fighter 3, Third Strike, where, you basically had these few characters who were the only ones who were being seen. Like, that's pretty much all it was. It was only Laura, Balrog, Birdie. Those were the people that you saw at tournaments, and that's basically what it was. And which is true, and I don't really like that, because I think that everybody should be able to use their own characters and for them to be valuable. I feel like that's good for a fighting game and for everybody to be able to have fun, because at the end of the day, even though, yes, these games are competitive, it being competitive really doesn't mean anything unless you're having fun doing it. And so, I feel as though, Capcom really could have did a lot more to make the characters valuable and to make them enjoyable. And then, we had Season 4, which had arcade mode. It had the new V-triggers, the new V-triggers, and it had my boy Cody when he was finally in there so that I can play him. And I will say that, I definitely enjoy Cody's transition. I think that it's very important for characters to be able to move on. For him to be able to have the story transition of him being the mayor and taking over for Hagar. I think that that's really, really dope, and I really, really like that. And I think they should have did that with more characters, because they definitely didn't give all characters that treatment, but that's fine. So, when this game first came out, it was trash. And then I was saying in Season 4, we started to see with the new V-triggers and with the arcade mode that there was a lot more love that was put into the game. There was a lot more effort that Capcom put into the game to try to be able to salvage it, because of the fact that they saw what happened with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. They saw what happened. They saw how that game died, about how people could not let go of how ugly the game looked, about how there were people that was really, really lacking. And they saw that that could not happen to Street Fighter. That this is the game that really put them on the map. That they just couldn't let Street Fighter fall by the wayside. So, in my humble opinion, they did like a complete 180. So, the question is, well, why did it have to happen like this? Why did Street Fighter V come out, as such a horrible product that people hated? Why did they do the things they did? And this question, honestly, to me, is the most easiest question to answer. And the reason why, the game turned out like this and why it was such trash on complete release is when you look at how Capcom is doing now, about how much money they're making, not with Street Fighter V necessarily, but with Monster Hunter World and Devil May Cry 5. Like, Capcom is a company, and you see this with other companies that aren't even gaming companies. Like, remember when when Apple came out with, what was it, the iPhone 9, or I forgot which one it was. Whichever one, they decided to change the head jack to where the headphone jack, where you didn't have a headphone jack. You had to buy a separate piece to be able to plug in your headphones, and otherwise you would just have to get the Bluetooth headphones. People were furious that they did that. But if I remember correctly, that was the same year that they had come out with, what is it, that Apple credit card, and also the what was that, the Apple TV. And so, it's a common thing that a lot of times companies will sometimes scale back on the quality of like a main product or a long-standing product to be able to work on things that are more lucrative, to work on other projects that can make them money also, because you never want to put your eggs into one basket. You don't want just one thing making you money. You want multiple things. And when Street Fighter 4 and Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out, there hadn't been a Street Fighter game and a Marvel game for a long time, and so those are really, really big deals. And as far as Monster Hunter was more of like a cult following type of thing. Monster Hunter, if you ever played any other Monster Hunter, like I started out with Monster Hunter Tri, and those games, you had underwater levels. You had to fight monsters underwater. You couldn't run while healing. You were so much slower. Like, you needed a huge amount of skill and patience to be able to play that game. But I do want to say the payoff was worth it. The payoff was definitely worth it. And even with Devil May Cry, at that time, Devil May Cry, I think, Xbox had the license for it, and they came out with their own Devil May Cry game, but people hated it because they totally abandoned the story. They did a complete reboot, and they made Dante like this punk rock looking kid, and they just hated it. I heard the gameplay was solid, but just the story was really dumb, and nobody liked the way that Dante looked. And we saw that's exactly what happened with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. It didn't matter how good the gameplay was. When you have Chun-Li over there looking like, I don't know, her thyroid is off, and she just looking real fat in the face, like she got some Play-Doh stuffed in her cheeks, nobody is going to like that. Nobody's going to want to play that. And so, when Capcom got the, I guess, they got the license back for Devil May Cry, and they continue with the story, and not just continue with the story, they made the story make sense. They made it simple enough to where you can follow, and then they put the icing on the cake, which was the amazing gameplay. The core gameplay was amazing, and you got to play as 3 different characters, each with their own play style. And then with Monster Hunter, oh my god, I'm playing Monster Hunter now, and that game is just, so deliciously good. It's so good. It doesn't make any sense how good that game is, while at the same time being accessible for everybody. And it's challenging. They scaled back the difficulty and skill that the player had to have, but they took the difficulty up with these monsters. Especially for Monster Hunter Iceborne. Monster Hunter Iceborne is a whole different game. Normally, when you have an expansion, it's normally just maybe a couple of, missions or something like that. But this is a whole original storyline, and, all of these new monsters and previous monsters that you have seen, that the longtime fans have seen and everything, the fan favorites, and, they're allowing people to be able to vote on armors and weapons and everything. That game, go play Monster Hunter World. If you have not, at least give it a try. Rent it from, what you can do? If you're from Philly or anywhere that has a red box, rent Monster Hunter World. Rent Monster Hunter World, and, play that game. Play just the base game. Don't get Iceborne. Just play the base game and see how good that is. I'm telling you, you will not regret it. It is really, really fun. And it's also fun. It's a game where you can play with randoms and it'd be fine. It'd be alright. And, you know what I'm saying, it makes it that much amazing to play with friends. So, you know, that's basically the reason why Street Fighter V initially was the way that it was. It's very clear. Oh, and how could I forget Mega Man 11, which was amazing, and which Capcom is very, very scummy for doing. So, in my humble opinion, I personally think that Capcom purposefully mooched off of the demise and the failure of Mighty Number 9. So for anybody that, you know, contributed and went to the Patreon and you know, paid to be able to contribute towards Mighty Number 9 and saw that finished product, oh my god, they did y'all dirty. They did y'all horribly dirty, continuously, you know, delaying the game for stupid reasons, and then when it came out, it had pepperoni pizza explosions, and the commercial for it, it was horrible. That game was horrible, fam. And I heard that there was people that paid on the Patreon and didn't even get their version of the game, so that was really messed up. And then what does Capcom do? Capcom comes in and saying, hey, remember how that, you know, creator of Mega Man told you that he was going to make you a Mega Man game, and he failed at it? Well, how about we do it, and we do amazing at it? Like, the game is really, really fun. It has a nice difficulty to it. My buddy, he actually didn't even beat it yet because he's stuck on one of the levels, but that game is like fantastic, and Capcom did like such an amazing job on it. And so, you know, it's very clear to see that Capcom took the money that usually would go to their two franchise, you know, the two main franchises, which is Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom, and they put it into other things. They put it into Monster Hunter, into Devil May Cry, and into Mega Man, and it has worked out so successfully. And then Tekken, oh my god, Tekken. If you have a phone that's able to get all the apps and everything, which you should because 2019, download Tekken. If you like fighters, I mean, if you like those card games, you know what I'm saying? That's like Hearthstone and all that stuff. Download Tekken. Tekken is all the Capcom characters basically in that Hearthstone format, which is amazing. Oh my god, it is so good. And the online is seamless. They need to have that online in Street Fighter V. And so basically, you know, fortunately, due to Capcom making some very strong moves, you know what I'm saying, adding in another V trigger, adding in another V skill, and giving us Seth and Gil, to where you have these boss characters and everything. It is, you know, I definitely would say that I feel as though this game has made a complete 180 and has turned around into being like, you know, the true underdog comeback story, which is a good thing to see. You know, it's a good and a bad thing because I don't want Capcom to do this repeatedly, to, you know, make these mistakes again and again. I would, in my personal opinion, round one, and this is my theory, I think that all of this was planned. I think that it was planned for Street Fighter and even Marvel vs. Capcom to be these two crappy games that came out really crappy on release. And even with Marvel vs. Capcom, I think that both of these games were supposed to get better over time. Because it seems as though for Marvel vs. Capcom that, you know, they had plans. It looked like they had plans, but I think that with Marvel vs. Capcom, the problem with them was Disney owning Marvel and Disney giving the developing team a hard time because, you know, like for instance, that, you know, everybody wanted the X-Men to be in there and they weren't. And I think that the reason why that was is because Disney was trying to basically use their cutthroat business practices to get Fox back under, you know, their, or well, to get the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, you know, basically back under their control, but they didn't have it yet, and so they were basically trying to squeeze the life out of everything that had to do with the X-Men or Fantastic Four. But that case did not exist for Street Fighter V, so they didn't have to deal with the same problems, so Street Fighter V had a better time staying alive. Alright. Sorry, drinking some water. But you know, especially now, it feels like Street Fighter V has a lot more variety. It has a lot, it has a lot more personality to where it's its own thing. And I definitely will agree with Gutex, because when you ask people, when you ask the majority what they thought about Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, everybody says that that game was terrible, that it was trash. That the characters sucked because they didn't have, people like E Honda and everything. But at the very least, at least to me, Street Fighter Third Strike was a very solid game. It was very, very solid. And, even though the characters wasn't who people wanted to be, at least they tried something different. They legitimately put a lot of love into that game. Like, even the developer said the reason why they did things the way they wanted to, even though people didn't like the game, is just because that's what they wanted. Because they believed in their product and they put time and effort into it, and they wasn't just going to give up on it. And I feel as though, with Street Fighter V, they didn't have that same thought process going into it, because even though Street Fighter 5 is good now, I feel like this game could have been so much better if this is the product we got as the vanilla version. Like, imagine this game coming out as it did now, having this roster of 40 characters, and having 2 V skills, 2 V triggers and everything, because that's what really gives the game its individuality, is the way in which you use the V skill and the V trigger. That's what really gives you your own spin on how you're going to use the character. Because a lot of times, especially for Cody, I probably don't play Cody the way that the game meant for Cody to be played, but that's the way that I feel like playing him. You know what I'm saying? You should be able to do that, because every player is different. Like, it's so awesome in Street Fighter 4 when you would see a mirror match, between, like I don't know, like a Tokido and like an infiltration, with 2 Akumas or 2 Kens, 2 Ryus. Each person had their own individuality, because one person may wake up DP, one person may not. One person may use their bar to FADC, one person may use their bar to go straight into Super. Like, there was so much depth to that game that it gave each player a different way to play the same character if they wanted to. And I feel like slowly but surely, I don't feel like it's all the way there yet, but I feel like slowly but surely, that's what Street Fighter V is growing into. You know what I'm saying? And it's starting to get out of that, we only see a certain amount of characters. Like, even at Capcom Cup, I saw Lucia being played, and Lucia was doing good. I forgot who was playing her, but Lucia, Zeku, all that good stuff, you know what I'm saying? And like with these new these new V skills, I should say, it's looking like it's giving a lot of characters an opportunity to be stronger. Like, especially Zangief, especially since I'm playing as Zangief in this video. Like, Zangief, with that kick that he has, if he conditions you correctly and you're scared, that can be a nightmare for you. Him kicking you into the wall, making you bounce off, and then jumping up SPD. Oh my God! When me, the Bay, and my buddy, we were there and we was watching all of this, we were losing our minds because we were so hyped. Seeing how Guile got this air sonic boom and everything, how Zeku is throwing a cat at you. Oh my God, it looks so dope. Now, there is still a way for Capcom to mess this up. Let me be clear. It's not like this is like a 100% thing, like this is 100%, Street Fighter V is saved and then we don't have to worry about anything. But what I will say is that Street Fighter V is definitely done. Street Fighter V is coming to, like, if Street Fighter V in 2016 was Infinity War, then in 2019 this is the end game. And the reason why that is because they basically confirmed it with the trailer that they had for Seth, for the female Seth. The V-Skill 1, I believe, was a move that basically took a special move from the other character. And so think about it. So if they were to come, because I believe that Seth is going to be the last character, but that's going to be it. Because think about it. If they came out with other characters after Seth, well, they would have to go back and keep on tweaking that V skill so that Seth could keep on taking the abilities and the special moves of the other characters. And I don't see Capcom doing that because the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 5 is coming out. And how things are looking, it's looking like Street Fighter is going to be an exclusive again on a Sony console, which is, you know, I think that part of the reason why Street Fighter did survive and did have, you know, I guess okay sales is because of their partnership with Sony. I think that it's mutually beneficial, and it's looking like this is going to be able to continue into the Street Fighter, into the PS5. So, you know, I'm thinking that probably next year. Oh, and also, there was a Twitter post that said that the winner for the Capcom Cup for 2020, which is next year, will not automatically qualify for 2021. So usually, if you win Capcom Cup, you qualify for the next year. But that's not going to be the case for 2020. And logically, the reason why in my mind is because Street Fighter 6 is going to be coming out in 2021. And so it's going to be a brand new game. People are going to have to learn it and everything else. And people are, you know, it's basically going to be a reboot. And I think that personally, in my humble opinion, Street Fighter 6 is going to be nothing like Street Fighter 5 because of the fact that, you know, Monster Hunter World, like Capcom already has multiple ways to make money. So they're good now. They don't have to be able to spend as much money to focus on other games and divert funds away from Street Fighter and stuff like that. Hopefully Marvel vs. Capcom will make a comeback in 2021 as well. That would be very, very dope. So with Championship Edition, I know a lot of people are asking, should I waste time on it? Should I get it? I do not think it's a waste of time, and I definitely think it's something that you should get. And here's why. Let's say if you stopped playing Street Fighter 2 years ago, you missed out on a lot of costumes, a lot of stages, and a lot of characters. Championship Edition is giving you all of the characters, all of the colors, all of the costumes, all of the stages for one price. And I definitely think that it is worth it. I definitely think that it's something that you should definitely purchase, something that you should consider, and give it another try, because I feel as though Street Fighter 5 is in a good place right now. And so that's my personal opinion on the game and where it lies right now. So yeah. Alright everybody, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed everything that you saw and that you heard. If you did, then please like, comment, and subscribe to the Legendary LaShawn. Especially the comment part, because I want to know, do you guys like these type of videos where I go in depth and I put my personal opinion out there for y'all to hear? Did you agree with my opinion? Did you disagree? Were there some questions that I maybe missed? And if so, what are they? Comment in the description down below. Tell me what you thought about the video and whether I should keep on doing this, then leave a like. Thank you for watching the video. I am Mr. LaShawn, and I will see all of you guys later.